I would like to introduce our guest speaker, United States Army Colonel Michael Morrow. I want to thank each of you for coming out this very brisk morning to honor our veterans. I want to tell you also, too, that in many countries throughout the world and every day, our veterans are also commemorized. I'd like to talk about one of those events. My wife Lynn and I had the privilege this year of attending one such event, the 70th D-Day commemoration honoring our World War II veterans from the Omaha Beach landings on 6 June 1944 at the American Cemetery, Colville-sur-Mer in Normandy, France. The official ceremony was held in the American Cemetery on the bluffs overlooking Omaha Beach. There were over 12,000 people who traveled from all over the world, including our president and the president of France, to pay homage to our veterans. The day was perfect. The sun shone down brightly on the massed crowd seated in a long, wide row of chairs that stretched down the middle of the entire cemetery. A gentle breeze whispered through the tall pine trees that dotted the manicured green fields of grass. The sky overhead was deep, vibrant blue with wisps of white, fluffy clouds on a horizon that disappeared into the gently rolling blue-green waters off of Omaha Beach. We sat in our chairs surrounded by row upon row of 9,387 perfectly aligned white crosses and stars of David. The ceremony was epic in scale, the TV cameras broadcasting the event worldwide. At the appointed time, a hush fell over the crowd as the surviving veterans were slowly escorted to their seats in the front. They each wore blue blazers emboldened with their military emblems and rows of colorful medals they were awarded from those long-ago battles. The audience and the world celebrated these brave men and all the veterans of Omaha Beach that day. Lynn and I were grateful to be a small part of this official ceremony. But this is not the story that I want to tell you about this morning. I want to tell you about one small celebration that occurred several days later on the 9th of June 2014 in the very small French town of Trevière in Normandy, France. Trevière is a small town located several miles behind Omaha Beach, with a population about the same as our little town of Grafton, Illinois, about 650 people. Their main feature is the town square surrounded by old stone homes and connected by a worn cobblestone streets. Trevière is a farming community that has not changed significantly since World War II. On June 9th, 1944, the Americans, pushing out from Omaha Beach, liberated this small town. The fighting that day was fierce. Many bombs were dropped and artillery shells rained down on the small town. Many of the village's inhabitants hid in their cellars or in the surrounding fields. The damage to the town and the civilian casualties was significant. But at the end of the battle, the Germans were driven from this town. Lynn and I were invited to attend their town's annual Liberation Day ceremony. We arrived in Trevière on the morning of 9 June in time to observe the residents making their final preparations for the day's ceremony. Strings of colorful flowers were being placed in positions, and everywhere you looked there was some form of preparation activity. As we wandered around the town square, we saw a large bus pull up, and we were astounded to see United States Navy band sailors climb down and start to warm up their instruments. I went over and chatted with a few of them and found out that they were stationed in Naples, Italy, and they were just one of several U.S. Navy military bands scheduled to attend ceremonies, large and small, throughout the Normandy area that week. At the appointed hour, the band formed up and they started to play as they marched out of sight around the town square. As they marched, the French people of Trevière came out of their homes and their shops and they followed the band. The crowd swelled in size. When the band turned the last corner leading to the center of the town, they struck up the rousing tune of Anchors Aweigh, leading the whole town into the ceremony area. The band took their position next to the town statue, and the ceremony area quickly filled up with over 700 people. A light drizzle started to fall from the overcast sky. We were facing the town's bronze statue of a woman dressed in a flowing gown pointing towards the sky. This statue was dedicated to the veterans of World War I and was damaged by the artillery fire in 1944 of the battle to liberate the town. The statue was missing half of the woman's face. When the town was rebuilt after World War II, the townspeople wanted the statue to remain as it was after the battle, as a tribute to the American liberators and as a reminder to the French of their Liberation Day. Suddenly, right in front of us, the wall of people parted to form an open lane that stretched from the ceremony area all the way to City Hall. Slowly and gracefully through this opening of French people came the World War II American veterans who had fought to liberate Trevière. Each veteran was escorted by two children, a boy and a girl, dressed in traditional French clothing of the World War II era, holding a bouquet of beautiful flowers. Cries from the crowd of welcome, joy, and thanks filled the square. The old American veterans, all of them in their 90s, walked proudly, slowly, nodding and waving to the people and fighting back their tears. The veterans were seated in their place of honor in front of the statue. The American and the French national anthems were played, and the mayor gave a very short speech. And then the main commemoration took place. The children of Trevière put on a series of performances for the veterans. The children danced, they sang, and they showered the veterans with hugs and flowers. The townspeople cheered and they cried and they strained to catch glimpses of the honored veterans. We were deeply humbled to be at this ceremony honoring our veterans. When the ceremony was over, a little old French couple came over to us and they hugged Lynn and me. They tearfully told us in French and in sign language that they were just little children when the Americans liberated Trevière and they had hid in a root cellar. They still remember the bombs, the smoke, and the noise of that day, and they have never missed coming to this day of remembrance to honor the American veterans who liberated their town and saved their lives. They thanked us for our country, and they repeated over and over, "We love you." The French in Normandy have not forgotten. I was asked to give the keynote speech to the annual Bedford Boys Association dinner on Omaha Beach on D-Day. The Bedford Boys Association is comprised of American citizens from Bedford, Virginia, and French citizens from Trevière, Normandy. The little town of Bedford, Virginia lost 19 of their young men out of a total of 24 that enlisted for World War II. The 19 soldiers were all killed in action in the first landing craft that landed on Omaha Beach on D-Day. Every year, the Americans from Bedford and the French from Trevière meet to place flowers on the graves of the 19 Bedford boys. These commemorations that occur every year in Trevière are only a few of the many that occur every year throughout Normandy, France. The French have not forgotten our veterans, just like we here today have not forgotten our veterans. Look around you. Chances are that you'll see a veteran next to you from World War II, Korea, Vietnam, the Cold War, Grenada, Panama, Desert Storm, Somalia, the Persian Gulf, Iraq, Afghanistan, or the global war on terror. Take the time today and every day to thank them for their service, for without it, this nation would not be here. Thank you today for coming to honor our veterans. God bless you, God bless all of our veterans, and God bless the United States of America.